Hi guys, Gilly Hunt here with the third of my little set of note cards ready for after Christmas. This was the first one I made, and you'll be able to go back and have a look for that on my YouTube channel. And then I made several others, including looking at a blue colourway, which is sort of quite a nice different kind of colourway. And today I'm going to have a go at showing you how to make this one, and also looking at a pink colourway. So let's hope you enjoy these. So here we go. Let's take that one away, because this is the one we're going to look at. And this is the one I want to look at because it goes over the edge. And I think that's rather a nice way to use a particular stamp, and it's something that perhaps as a beginner you don't necessarily think to do because you're busy trying to get the whole image in one go. So here we go. Let's have a look at what to do. I'm just going to bring in a little piece of scrap paper so I can work on top of that, and I'm going to take a piece of pink card to do this. So you could do it in the soft sea foam, which is the colour I've used. So for those of you that want to replicate it exactly, this was soft sea foam, and I used the soft light petal pink, the dark petal pink, the light calypso coral, and the old olive to colour it in. And I used the gold embossing powders and the champagne embellishments. So this time I'm going to use just slight different things, but to get the same effect. So here we go. First of all, we're going to take our stamp, and I don't know why I've put this down because it's nowhere near big enough. Let's see if I can find a bigger sheet. Hold on, just one moment whilst I have a little rummage. Here we go. Let's go for a much bigger sheet, shall we? Because otherwise it's fairly pointless. Okay, here's our stamp, and I'm going to use the Memento ink. Now I'm using a dye-based ink because I want to ensure that when I colour with the blenders, when you use Stampin' Blend pens, they are oil-based, alcohol-based, sorry, not oil, alcohol-based, whereas Memento is dye-based, and you always use dye things when you're using alcohol because then they don't rub off. Otherwise, when you start to colour, it rubs off and it starts to lift the black, whereas if it's dye-based at the beginning, it won't lift off. And all I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go into the corners, one. I don't know why I put the lid on because I'm going to be doing quite a bit of this. I'm going to go into this corner, two, and all I'm allowing is just a little bit to hang over. And the reason I'm going into the corners first is because then I can space out what else I'm doing, because you really do want the corners to look as if they're filled. It always looks a bit hokey if you go to the corner and then you don't fill it in. If you have gaps in the corners, it looks worse than having a few gaps along the side. So there's my four corners, and now I'm going to ink it up again, and I'm going to look at the gaps, and I'm going to fill the gaps. So here I'm going to try and get between this one and just fill it in. There we go. And likewise, there's not very much space here, but I might just pop a little corner of a leaf to come in, so it just makes it feel like something's been done. And it may sometimes be that you have to twist it and turn it to get it to fill in. And again, although there's not much space here, I might just poke a little leaf in. There we go, just a tiny bit, so that it gives a really nice full look all the way around the edges. Okay, and now I'm going to colour that in. So let's have a look what colours I'm going to use. I've gone for quite a different look this time, so instead of going quite so antique-y, this one was very antique-y, this one that we did originally, and also the blue one that I did yesterday or the day before, I can't remember how long ago it was. We're getting up to Christmas and kind of my days are blending one between the other. So I'm going for the antique-y look there, and I'm going for a slightly brighter, fresher look this time. So this time I'm going to go for the light Poppy Parade, the dark Poppy Parade, the, oh, which one's this? This is Dark Daffodil Delight and Dark Granny Apple Green. So here we go. I'm going to colour the centres, any centre that I can see, and I'm going to do them in a sort of splish splashy but almost like a sunshine. So I'm starting at the middle and splashing outwards. So out that way, just like the rays of a sunshine. But always going from wherever the centre is. So if it's only half a one, I've got to be careful that I'm definitely going in the direction of the petals, if that makes sense. Okay, and that's the centres done. So let's get that out of the way. I'm going to use the Light and Dark Poppy Parade. So first and foremost, I'm going to just go round, and this time I'm going to sort of let it, so I'm working in towards that middle where I've done those sun rays, and I'm not trying to get a fixed line. I'm trying to just let it come in little stripes so that it breaks up that central piece. Okay, does that make sense? So that what we're not getting is a line. We don't want a nasty line where the two colours meet. We want them not really to blend, but to sort of merge one to the other in the sort of streaky pattern. Okay, I'm not explaining this terribly well. I hope this makes total sense, and if it doesn't, then don't forget, you can always put a comment below and I'll have another go at trying to explain it better. So I'm just streaking it inwards, and any that are on the edges where the centre isn't, that's fine, I can just fill those in. Okay, this is the only thing when you're doing it, when it's gone over the edge, you've just got to make sure you really do get all of them. It's very easy just to miss a little bit. Okay, so I'm streaking it inwards, flicking it, almost flicking it, little tiny flicks. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on because I don't want big flat bits. I want nice little dainty joins. Okay, and if you're perhaps not as comfortable using these brushes, you can always use the other end, which is smaller anyway. I'll just turn it round. Let me just get to the end of this one and I'll show you. Okay, I'm nice and comfortable with the brush end. In fact, I prefer it because I'm a watercolour kind of a girl anyway. But this end is much smaller tip, and in fact you can do much smaller, finer little splashes back and forth. Okay, but the only trouble is you then have to do quite a bit of little colouring around. But it does sometimes make it easier for those of you not so keen on holding the brush end. Okay, can you see those little flicks? Are sometimes just easier to do with that end of the smaller end of the brush. But I'm going back to the brushy bit because I like it better and it's quicker, and you're not just going to sit there forever watching me colouring. Although some people say they quite like doing that, but I always assume you want to just see what I'm doing and when I've finished and what it's going to look like and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, there we go. And in a minute I'm going to go on to doing the little buds. Now what happens here? Sometimes it's hard to tell which bits are it's another bloom going that way. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish which is a leaf or which is another petal coming in. Okay, and now I'm going to go over all of these little buds with the light petal pink, light poppy parade, not petal pink at all, this one. For those of you that I don't think I told you, and that are thinking, I wonder what she's used for the base card, I've actually used Blushing Bride. But although Blushing Bride is lovely, you could use the petal pink. because that would go equally nicely with these reds. Okay, so I'm now just going to use a little bit of the dark to give me some contrast, and I'm going to try and think, where would the shadows be? And if you're not sure, think about just highlighting one side, so everything that's this side. So that would be this one, that one, that one. So just a little bit on the one side. So again, if I'm doing just this side, so it'd be the left hand side of these petals. That way it gives it some kind of shape, as if the sun is shining on one side but not on the other of the plant, which is what would happen in nature. The sun would catch the one side of the petal, not the other. So there you go. And then we're going to carry on with some dark granny apple green, because actually granny apple green itself is not such a dark colour. And I wanted a nice bold leaf. I think these reds sort of need a bold leaf. I tend to think of this as almost like a strawberry red. It's got that slightly oranginess to it. I think Poppy Parade is a lovely, lovely colour. When it came in, I was very excited. It sort of just lifts from that pillar box red into this slightly more orangey red. I think it's rather lovely. Gives you a very fresh feel. Always reminds me of summer fruit bowl. Okay, so just a few more leaves to complete. There we go. One. I'm just being a tiny bit more careful with the leaves this time, because I think they're quite dark, and so they do sort of show up if you haven't got them. Oh look, I've just spotted there's a tiny edge of what would be a petal going this way. So we need to make sure it's coloured in, otherwise it will look odd. And then I haven't done just the little pieces at the tops of the, I can't remember what they're called. Is it stigma, stamen? No, those are all the internal bits, aren't they? Is it sepals? Oh, I don't know. All you gardening people, and I'm a gardening person, I should know, but never mind, I don't. So there you go. That gives you that really nice sort of summery feel. And so in keeping with the summery feel, this time, instead of using gold or silver embossing, I'm going to use white. And I'm going to just give it a really nice little white top edge. So here's the embossing powder, and as before, I'm simply going to dip around the edge with the Versamark. The Versamark is just putting a sticky surface all around the edge. It's a strange stuff, is Versamark. It's sort of in between a glue and an ink, really, I suppose. But it's just good gooey sticky stuff that the powder sticks to, and that allows the powder to sit on that edge until we need it. Now I'm going to also use my text, and I've got a thank you here, which I got from this lovely set, which is the Beautiful Autumn set, and it has some lovely words. I love this thank you. It's so big and bold and really pretty. So there we go. I'm going to pop that into the middle, and I'm also going to just make sure that that has had some powder knocked over it. And I'll just give it a good flick to make sure we've got no loose little bits, because you don't want little flecks and little marks. You just want nice, the embossing powder to stay in exact places. Okay, and here we come in with my heat gun. Whee! And it's blowing it all over the place. There we go, it's just starting to go. Can you see that? I don't know whether you can. Yes, you can. So as I track up, hopefully you'll see the white becomes, instead of a dirty sort of creamy coloured powder, we'll start to get this really nice crisp white edge. And I've just got to be careful that I don't put my fingers in the middle on top of the thank you, because otherwise that will knock the powder off. So if you're new to embossing, then possibly do one first and then the other. So do the edge first maybe, and then do your middle. Because unfortunately, the minute you touch the powder, until it's heat sealed, it's still a powder and it will whiz off. There we go. Now I've also noticed that this has very slightly buckled my paper. Can you see? Very slightly. So I'm also going to just give it 1 or 2 seconds underneath in the opposite direction. Right, not very long. There we go. Now the reason I do that is because what happens is, if you imagine underneath here in the paper there's like little lines of fibres all stuck together, and when one side gets heated it tightens, and so it creates this curve shape. Okay, so instead of being nice and flat, it tightens. But what's happened is that the fibres on this side have tightened, and so what you need to do is heat the opposite side, and that will then allow that side to tighten, and it will gradually level up. And look, that is considerably more flat than it was a few minutes ago. And that's ready to sit down, and I can put that down onto a card base, and I have a very nice little thank you card, which is fresh and different compared to the seafoam and compared to the green, the blue we used before. So this was soft seafoam, this was pool party, this is blushing bride, and we've just used a different number of colours to make completely different images. I hope you've enjoyed those 3 cards, and I look forward to talking to you again. Thanks then. Bye bye.